introduce you to Aubrey Ellen Shomo, who just defeated 2 bills in Colorado.
Hello, everybody. I didn't exactly have time to prepare a speech, so I'm going to wing it. I hope that's okay. I am a survivor. I was identified as a child prodigy at 6 years old, and at 8 years old, they said that I had a psychotic disorder. I spent the next 8 years drugged, sometimes to the point of drooling and sleeping through my days. I was hospitalized 7 times, and when I was finally an adult, I got out. During part of that time, they covered up the fact I was being physically abused in my home because they saw the greater value was getting me treatment against my will. They used false allegations in order to secure me that treatment, knowing they were false. In the last 3 weeks, I terminated 2 pieces of legislation in the state of Colorado to expand civil commitment. The first such piece of legislation deprived Colorado citizens of the jury trial if they were to be committed. It was killed at sponsor request on the floor of the State House. The second piece of legislation was carried forward from the first with many of its other provisions, including most notably the removal of the requirement for imminent danger before civil commitment. It made it through the House, and it was killed in committee in the Senate, again at request of the sponsor. But there's a deep concern growing within me about these new pieces of legislation and this connection that politicians are drawing between us and violence. National Institute of Mental Health, the National Institute of Mental Health has released statistics stating that 26% of adults have a diagnosable mental illness. That's a hell of a voting block to take civil rights from. And it seems like it's well-meaning politicians from traditionally civil rights parties that are doing it because they feel the need to respond to a public perception of violence. The catch is, we're not violent, we're everyone. And so what's happening is essentially a new blood libel. We are being associated with violence, that violence is being used to deprive us of rights, that violence is being used to chemically modify our brains, and that violence is not connected to us. So, we have a need, and that need is to get politicians to realize that history will remember them as bigots for trying to lock us all up. They think they mean well. The men in that building think they mean well. I'm not here to tell you whether psychiatry is a fraud or not. I happen to smoke pot. I'm from Colorado. I like pot. I like to change my brain chemistry. If you like Zyprexa, I don't understand you, but if you like Zyprexa, have at it. What I'm against is someone coercing me, forcing me, or coming at me with a hypodermic needle. So there's progress in this fight against the Murphy bill. There's progress at the national level. We just turned the tide in the state of Colorado, but they'll be back. Do you know what they did? I brought a nurse from Fort Logan, which is the state mental hospital, to talk about abuses, and I brought the PAMI lawyer who pointed out that the removal of imminent and the removal of the jury trial weren't even recommended by the task force they put together to change the civil commitment laws. They were slipped in by individual legislators. Remember the name of Democrat Beth McCann. Remember it for all time. This woman came for the jury trial for mental patients. She came for the jury trial from 26% of her voters. She's from a district where the last election she won with 83% of the vote. 83 minus 26 means we only need to get 5% more to terminate her time in the public sphere. And until we start to do things like that, until we start to make a point to politicians that coming for our rights will end their time in office, they will continue to think that they can scapegoat us. They need to be afraid of us like they're afraid of every racial minority. And at 26% of the vote, we have the power to make them ask us what we want, not come at us with drugs. Everyone here, this is a start, but remember that statistic. It's right on the National Institute of Mental Health webpage. And remember the fact that these guys think because of the media perception, because of biases against our people, which are not legitimate, which are not based in science. I won't speak to the science of psychiatry, but the association with violence isn't true. We are 6 times more likely to be a victim. 96% of violent crimes are committed by people without a diagnosis, yet somehow we make up 26% of the population. And also, There's a recent study which said of people with mental illness who are arrested, fewer than 10% of those cases does the arrest have anything to do with their symptoms. They're telling lies, they're defaming us, and they're using it to take our civil rights. And we have the power to turn the tide. Together, we're a quarter of their voters, and we can knock any single individual out of office we please. Spread the word Beth McCann is to be an example.